This is Dateline News and Conversation. Well, I have to admit before I start tonight that this interview and what will we be discussing is really uh, way above my pay grade. My guest tonight is Dr. P. R. Raghavan. He's the chairman and CEO of Nanorx INC. He has a Ph.D. in organic chemistry from Oregon State University, 1979, and an MS in chemistry, 1972, from I.I.T Bombay, India. He has worked on drug discovery for over 25 years at Columbia University, Max-Planck Institute in Germany, Novartis, Boehringer-Ingelheim Pharmaceuticals. His fields of specialization are CNS, inflammation, AIDS, and ACE inhibitors. His experience in drug research includes chiral synthesis, process, scale-up, and clinical research. I don't know anything about his specialties, but we'll find out. He has been working for the last 20 years in the area of nanomedicine and nutraceuticals. And Nanorx was founded in 2008. In layman's language, we are going to be talking about our immune system and immune dysfunction at a cellular level. Don't panic. I promise you, I'll do my best to get this in layman's language. Now, before I begin, I have to read a little bit more about Dr. Raghavan's background. He discovered by research the patented formula of nanosoma, a metadicol. It represents an innovative modern breakthrough that addresses immune system dysfunction at the cellular level. It's formulated using nanotechnology as both a dietary supplement and a topical solution. And this discovery, which comes from a powerful plant wax extracted from sugarcane, has been found to support many of the physiological functions essential for optimal skin and immune health. I have to say, this is not a promotion for this product. But what we are going to talk about is what the pharmaceutical industry has been bombarding us with and reaching the market for everything that ails us, while things like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol continued to rise despite all of these medicines. Dr. Raghavan has applied his extensive research in drug metabolism and biochemistry, including 25 years of research. I want to welcome now to the show Dr. P. R. Raghavan. Doctor, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So, to begin, I mentioned that this is not going to be a technical discussion, a scientific, in-depth discussion, but I want to introduce you and your background. I want to talk about your time with Big Pharma.
Mm-hmm.
Big Pharma today is considered by many of us not a very helpful entity.
Mm-hmm.
You worked for Big Pharma for many years, but you discovered on your own through research about our immune system. I want to talk about that tonight with you. So, to begin with, I'd like to know about your background. You're from India, your family, your upbringing, and your education. So if we can begin with just that, Tell me about it.
So let's begin. We go back to when I was born in 51 in Bangalore, India, which is now the Silicon Valley, of Asia, after the Silicon Valley in USA. So at that time, we were from a very middle class family, which means in those days we had 2 meals a day, and I grew up with my grandparents because my parents were in an area where there was no schools. So I went to a school called St. Joseph's in Bangalore, Catholic school. And then I graduated from high school in 67, did my undergraduate in another college in Bangalore University in India. Then I went to I.I.T Bombay in 72, and then came to the US in 73. So basically, the reason I got into chemistry at early age was in after I graduated from high school, we have 1 year of what we call as pre-university. That determines where you go. So if you got a high grade in biology, you probably go to medicine and physics, and I got a high grade in chemistry. That's how I landed up in chemistry. So and specifically organic chemistry. So I finished my master's in I.I.T Bombay in 72. In 73, early 73, I was in Oregon to pursue my Ph.D. That's my background. So I got into chemistry by accident because I got a good score, but I've enjoyed it ever since.
Well, I'd like to know a little bit more about your personal background. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a sister, and she's alive. My parents are both dead. My father lived to be 80. He died peacefully. My mother, just 2 years ago, 96, she passed away. So I still go to India back and forth. I have a lot of cousins there, and a lot of my father's side of the family is in the US. So
now,
of us are here. So
you mentioned you went to a Catholic high school.
Yeah.
Were you Catholic, or
no, I'm Hindu. So, but in those days, there were not many Catholics in India, so they needed other people to come to fill their schools and pay fees. So they used to have Catholic sermons for the Catholics, but not for the other people. The Catholics complained that they had to come to school half an hour earlier than us. So.
But to me, it sounds like it was a pretty good education, was it?
Yeah, in those days, the teachers were revered and respected, and which is not the case today. But in those days, was education in India always been respect for the guru or teacher. It's been historical, going back 10,000 years. So, we got a solid background. I remember my fees was in today's terms was 10 cents a month.
Wow,
not too bad. It was considered expensive in those days.
So
my entire education, if I calculate the amount of money I spent, would be just fees alone would be about $400 until I got my master's.
Wow. So would you describe your childhood and your growing up as quite normal, or was it very different from other people in India? Because in America, we have the impression that there's great poverty in India, but
yeah, we were. Let's put it this way: poverty in those days was defined as if you had two meals a day, you were not poor. Okay, if you had one meal a day, you were struggling, and if you had struggled for a meal, that was poverty in those days. Today, it's the exact opposite.
Wow. So
today, I considered obese. If you have 2 meals a day. So
yeah. So you mentioned that you came to the United States to Oregon, the University of Oregon, to get your Ph.D. or Oregon State University.
Correct.
Why did you come to America to work on your Ph.D.?
In India, there's very few options left to do research. They didn't have. They had so much difficulty feeding the people in those days that it was very hard to spend money on a higher education. So and the I.I.T, everybody who graduated from I.I.T used to go to America, so that became a part of the trend. And they needed us. Americans needed us also for the research. because we're all motivated to do research.
So why Oregon State University?
No, I did get into University of Milwaukee, and also to, I believe in Canada, I got into another university. But Oregon State, the professor, was in an area he worked in, was decently well known. So I said, okay, I'll come there.
So you got your PhD in organic chemistry.
Correct.
And then did you go back to India or did you stay in the United States?
No, I went to, from there, I went to do, actually, I finished my work in 78, got my degree just after June. So that's why I got my degree in 79. But I went to Max-Planck Institute in Germany in 78. I was there till, end of 79.
Okay. And what is it you were doing there?
So I was, working in the area of what we call natural products, which is something that nature has, plant, extracts and so on, but how to make them in the lab photochemically, so using light.
Okay. Now tell me about your work in big pharma. And you spent almost 25 years, I guess.
No, not 25 years. I spent about doing research about 80 years, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years between Novartis and Boehringer. That was more than enough for me, because what I did pharma was to learn what they were doing, how they did the research, what are the steps to go through, clinical trials or whatever. When we were all, and I was inculcated into that. Whatever they do, they're doing the same thing today, nothing different. But
go ahead.
But by 95, I figured one thing out, which was that whatever they're doing was wrong. Something was not right, because the question came up was, if you have 120 drugs to treat diabetes, how come diabetes is still going on? You see? So if one of the 120 drugs worked, they'll put the other 119 out of business. And that wasn't happening with any disease. Disease was kept increasing. The number of drugs kept increasing, but disease never went away. So very clear to me that something was wrong. And I got an opportunity because, my wife was in a position where I could take the risk to start a company, but I didn't know where to start. But at that time, I went to a meeting in New York City. There was a speaker with an MD, Ph.D. from Harvard, I think. I remember his name. I think it's Felice or something like that. But he made a comment, which was that in his lifetime, there would be a product made from food or nature that would replace all the drugs. That's what he said. So everybody laughed, but somehow that got stuck in my head, And I said, what if he's right? And that is the beginning of the odyssey for me, which was a 10-year odyssey before I started the company.
Okay. You had this idea. You wanted to start a company. You were looking for something natural. I read in some of your background, how did you discover this powerful plant wax that was extracted from sugarcane?
So what happened is, one of the reasons, one of the things I decided was that if you're going to, we spent about 10 years in, pharmaceutical companies spend 10 years doing, testing for toxicity and so on. The only way you're going to speed it up is to start with a non-toxic product. What better non-toxic product than food? So that's how I got into food. So what kind of food was the question, So the question was, where do you start? So you start with something safe, something that is ubiquitous. And I didn't know what was ubiquitous until I looked at my own family, and I found, for example, in my father's side of the family, that there were four sons and 5 daughters. All the sons lived to be 80 plus, with the exception of one. But the women also lived to be older, but then they had all the diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and so on and so forth. If they came from the same gene stock, why is it that they have this problem? And in 2004 or 5, I remember meeting my only uncle, who was about at that time 93, 94. And I asked him, how come that in our side of the family, the men live longer and the women don't? Women do live longer, but with all kinds of problems. And he mentioned the fact that he eats food which is unprocessed. He said he takes salt that is not processed. I mean, luckily in India in those days we never got processed food, so there's a blessing in disguise. And as far as sugar is concerned, he takes jaggery, which is the crude form of sugar. And he also mentioned the fact that there is a temple in India called Vaidishwaran Temple. The translation means doctor's temple, where it's believed, it's constructed 5,600 years ago, which believes that jaggery cures 4,448 diseases. And that is the story. And then, the evening I met a friend of mine, the same evening, and luck would have it. And he was with another person and who happened to be a doctor who was working in a sugarcane mill in those days, because that's a sugar growing area in those areas. And when he found out that I was at the pharma, he said, doctor, you can tell me why in my factory we have 25 executives and 170 odd workers. The workers don't get any hypertensive diseases or diabetes and so on, but the executives do. I said, what's the difference? He says the executives eat refined sugar and they do not give refined sugar to the workers who eat jaggery. And immediately I made the connection. That was something in the jaggery, and as an organic chemist, I knew what it was. It was a waxy substance that's present in the skin of sugarcane, which is called polycosanals. It's a wax, and as luck would have it, it's ubiquitous. Every food in the world, the rice, for example, before it's polished, contains polycosanals. Grapes contain polycosanol. So does pomegranate. There's so many leaves of plants. Even peat moss contains polycosanol. So the next question was, if it is polycosanol, how do we use it? And this is where nanomedicine comes. So my eye-opening experience was these two conversations that happened on the same day, and that's how we got started.
Wow, that's really interesting. Processed foods and refined sugar are probably at the root of a lot of the diseases that we have today.
Absolutely, because for example, you have rice. In villages in India, when they cut the rice, right, they take the whole rice and put it in a big pot with warm water, okay, and the warm water then slowly dissolves it like a milky white substance, which happens to be my product, which they drink. They're doing it for years, and that's polycosanol. So they've been doing it for years. They didn't need a doctor to go to. The second thing interesting is the elephants in India, the temple elephants, they all fed raw sugar cane and raw rice, not processed. And if you know elephants, they don't get cancer because they produce a protein called P53, which you and I also produce, which is an anti-tumor protein your body produces. Normally, we produce 1 or 2 copies. The elephant produces 40 copies. They never get cancer. Elephants don't get cancer. So, you have to look at what do these contain. They contain the same thing, polycosanol. So I knew the answer was polycosanol. The next step was, polycosanol is like a wax. If you, for example, you touch a leaf, you feel it. The leaf is smooth. Smoothness is a wax. And it's polycosanol, similar to polycosanol. Many of the leaves that are smooth contain polycosanol. The bark of a tree is a wax substance because it's protecting the tree from the outside elements. If it wasn't, the water would get into the bark of the tree, swell, and break up. So everything in the world has a waxy substance covering. That's why our skin is a lipid. We call it a lipid, like polycosanol. So water never gets into our skin. Otherwise, we'll all bloat and die. So nature, that was an opening for me. To me, that was the biggest eye-opener. And that's why every living species in the world has the skin as the largest organ. And in Sanskrit, we have a saying, it's called Purusha and Prakriti, Purusha is male and Prakriti is life. The Purusha is the skin that covers life that is inside. And that's exactly what this product was about.
Okay. I want to talk about our immune system. You mentioned that our skin protects us from everything, all kinds of things, correct?
Yeah.
But the reason that we're not protected is because of our diet.
That's one aspect. The second aspect is this, that if you look at the map of the world, 77% of the world's population lives in areas where there is sunshine 300 days a year. So all the disease, if you look at the world, is north of Atlanta, around the world. You see, why people have, light skin. For example, the white people in America or Europe, the basic origin for these people was actually Africa. But as they migrated north, they needed to absorb the sun to make vitamin D. And the sun had to be, your skin had to be lighter, because if it is dark, it'll absorb. And there's not much sunlight in Europe, for example. So the skin became lighter. That's how the white man evolved. He was basically African in that sense.
Okay. Vitamin D. I take vitamin D, and I've taken it for a number of years. I lived in Maine, where I grew up, not for a very long time, but I lived in Arizona for 35 years, where there was incredible sun. But I started taking vitamin D only when I moved back to Maine because of long, dark winters,
Correct.
Not a lot of sun, and I took it as a supplement. So is vitamin D a good thing to take then?
No, you can take it, but it's not as effective as making vitamin D in the sun, because in 1 week to 2 weeks in the sun, you can double your vitamin D by sitting in the beach, for example, exposing 60% of your body. But the vitamin D that the body makes is water-soluble vitamin D, whereas the pill you take is fat-soluble vitamin D. So, for example, when you take vitamin D, your liver has to be working and your kidney has to be working before you make the active vitamin D in the body. You see? So if your liver is short because you drink too much, or your kidneys because you eat all kinds of food, it's not happening. So I think there was a paper in one of my talks where we show, it's published work by WHO. It's one of the few places where I trust them, where they showed that 65 to 70% of the world's disease are caused by low vitamin D. For example, the high level of diabetes in Middle East is because they're covered. The women are covered. You see, if you look at the map of this world and look at women and men in most part of the world, the women will always have a lighter skin compared to the men of the same tribe, because the women are childbearing, and during childbearing, vitamin D becomes very important. Otherwise, the brain doesn't develop very well.
Well, so I'm now living in Yalta, in the Russian Federation, on the Black Sea. We have a lot of sunshine here.
Yeah.
Is it better for me to get out more and spend more time in the sun?
In the sun and expose, take your shirt off and bunion off or whatever. Yeah. Expose your body, because for you need only 20 minutes a day, and that's it. You're done.
20 minutes a day. I'm afraid a lot of people in North America probably don't get 20 minutes a day of sunshine. Uh, all right, listen, I'm no young person. I'm older than you are. Is it still really important for me to get 20 minutes a day or as much as
Absolutely,
I?
absolutely, absolutely. Because every cell in your body contains what we call as a vitamin D receptor. It's waiting for vitamin D that your body produces to come and lock and start doing stuff. For example, neutrophils, lymphocytes, basophils, eosinophils, T cells, all have vitamin D receptor. And every part of the body has a vitamin D receptor. It's there for a reason. Reason is
Okay,
they
I
want your
have to
body to make vitamin D.
I have to make a confession. I like wine. Is wine compatible with vitamin D?
No, it's not. Uh, Nothing. There's nothing to do with vitamin D.
But is it okay to drink wine?
Hey, it's okay. I mean, everything in moderation. That's all it is. To do.
Okay.
See, the key is this: you need to do
Okay.
20 minutes of. If you eat X amount of calories, you need to burn X amount of calories. That's it.
All right. I have to ask you for some medical and scientific advice. Um, I have never had a flu shot. I'm I'm 79 years old.
Mhm.
Never had a flu shot. And when the big pandemic happened, I refused to take a flu shot. I think maybe only once in my life, maybe twice, I had what I would describe as a flu. When my body ached, I couldn't get out of bed, I missed work. And that was over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I have concluded that I must have a fairly good immune system. Would I be correct in making that judgment?
Absolutely. See, people confuse so-called flu when your body warms up and you have flu, and your nose is being all the stuff you got to remove out of the nose or cough or whatever. It's a way for your body to cleanse itself. So it's a healing reaction that's going on in the body. It's not a disease.
Wow.
That's the key. So we treat the disease, and the process stop what the body is doing, and it creates problems the next time. It's like this: you have a flood. If there is a leak from the fourth floor, and you're on the ground floor. Okay, you keep bypassing the water coming from the fourth floor outside, but the problem never stops. What you have to do is to fix the fourth floor.
Well, that happened in our apartment here in Yalta last year when we had torrential rains and something leaked above us on the fourth or fifth floor and it damaged part of our apartment. That's a good analogy. I like that.
You need to what metadicol does. Let me put it this way: what our product metadicol, we call it nanosoma. Nanosoma means in Sanskrit the elixir of the gods. And metadicol, if you analyze it, anagram it, it means methodical. It works methodically in your body. That's why we gave that name. So basically, my product works at the vitamin D receptor. So even if you don't get the sun, my product will do the job of vitamin D.
Okay, before I get to the product, and we're going to talk about the product and the discovery, I have to ask you this because I think a lot of people like me have suffered from high blood pressure, hypertension. I've been taking pharmaceuticals for probably 30 years to treat high blood pressure. But last year I went to a doctor, a cardiologist here in Crimea in Yalta, and she asked me if I drink coffee. I said, yeah, I drink caffeinated coffee all the time. She said, stop drinking caffeinated coffee, and recommended some other things to be careful of, stay away from. And I have to tell you, when I stopped drinking coffee about 2 weeks later, my blood pressure dropped and has remained somewhere between 125 and 132 over 70 or 80. I still take the medicine, but I've been tempted to stop.
Yeah, you see, the thing is this: the medicine is what is controlling the blood pressure. It's nothing to do with coffee. Okay. So now if you drop the medicine, you will see your blood pressure shoot up. Then you will understand what happened. See, most
Wow.
pharmaceutical drugs are about working on the symptoms. This is where we differ. I work at the source of the problem. What is causing the hypertension is what we fix. So
Okay.
that it's like the fourth floor analogy. We are fixing the fourth floor. We are not fixing the ground floor.
So a lot of people are going to be listening to this answer that I want you to give. What is it that is the cause of hypertension?
No, this is it's a natural cause of aging, and stress. Whatever foods, some foods, especially processed foods, tend to do that. It's inflammation, for example. See, for example, I don't know if you know this. A lot of people eat. Most of the food is processed. In the world, and some of it is even GMO food. Modified foods. So all these, we don't know what effect they have on the body. The less processed foods you eat, the better off you are. I mean, I come back to this concept of vaccines because I looked at the history of my family and my father's family, my grandfather's family, how they died. I analyzed it. And I found that none of them ever had cancer. They died of old age or some in accidents. Then I came to one conclusion, which was I compared them with our generation. In our generation, we had three or four people of 23 grandchildren my grandfather had, 3 or 4 with cancer. Okay. In their generation was 0, and previous generation was 0. My mother never had a vaccine. My father never had a vaccine. We lived in India, the most tropical diseases galore. They got nothing. My mother, even during the last year of her life, she was taking my product, and she never got COVID, even though she was interacting with the rest of the world. So, this is about an immune system. This is very important. The less processed foods you eat, the better off you are. See, all restaurants in the world, notably, they cook with vegetable oils. There is, in all these oils, there is something called omega-3 and omega-6. That ratio should be 3 to 6, should be 2 to 1. So the 2 parts, 1 part of omega-3 and 2 parts of omega-6. That's the normal. But these oils contain 1 to 20, 1 to 30 of omega-6, And this causes inflammation. And inflammation can lead to many things, including hypertension. So we know the source of hypertension is your food. You have to change your diet. Get exercise, make your vitamin D in the sun, voila, and things begin to change. See,
Well,
for example, I try to avoid all the processed foods that I can.
I have to tell you that living here in Yalta, we buy very little, almost no processed foods. We shop in the markets where where the beef or the chicken comes from, where the milk, the eggs come from, where the fruit and the vegetables come from. There's no GMOs in Russia. I think certainly since I've been here now 4 years, my diet, I think, certainly has contributed now, as well as the sunshine, I think, to, I hope, my good health, because I don't have any known illnesses, cancer or anything like that. I hope not. But now I want to let you get into.
Just to make a thing, when I grew up, we used to have the cow guy come to our house at 5 in the morning, and he would then milk the cow, and we would drink the milk. See, key. See, when you sterilize the milk, you destroy a lot of goodies. So if you drink that milk, which is now banned in many parts of the world, they don't want to give you can't sell unpasteurized milk and all that. But in the villages in India today, they still drink unpasteurized milk. And that's how they keep healthy. Fresh milk.
Oh.
This is the key. See, for example, you talk about coffee, in Yemen, I don't know if you know this. The tradition was that somebody comes to your place, they would then roast the coffee first and then grind it and give you the coffee. The coffee made in the first 15 minutes after grinding and roasting is the healthiest product in the world. It's the most powerful antioxidant. We don't use that. You already have all kinds of, add water and drink it. It's not the same.
I hope people are taking notes. I'm certainly going to replay this myself. Okay. For me, this has been fascinating, Dr. Raghavan. You were just about to talk about you left Big Pharma. You had this epiphany, this awakening or the discovery of all of that was not what was helpful. It was not treating the cause of diseases.
Yeah.
And you went to plant-based natural substances.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you explained why you moved in that direction. I want you to tell me now about your product, what's so different about it, and I want you to be specific about what kinds of illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
ailments, diseases it fights or cures.
Yeah. So first thing we had to do was, which I found out was, we had to make this product water soluble. That's when I went to Switzerland. Okay. By the way, there is interesting part is I told you about the temple in India where we worship jaggery, and we worship jaggery and pour it into the pond there. It cures 4,448 diseases, which we have been verified. We are able to verify by gene analysis here, gene technology. But first thing when we made this was water soluble. So my product contains over 99%, 0.9%, 98% water. That means more than 99% what we call as water molecules. See, an average person, let's say 60 kilos or 70 kilos, 60% of your body is water. But if you calculate in terms of water molecules, over 99% what we are made of is water molecules. So nature, that's why life, if it grew up in the ocean, which is all water, we grow up in the womb of our mothers, which is all water. And the product we should be taking in this case was how we designed it so that it mimics nature. So what we found is immediately when 2010 or 9, when we started testing it in India, within the first 3 days, everybody who was on that suddenly said, wow, my hypertension became normal. So that's the first indication that something was working.
Okay. So what other different ailments or illnesses did you finally discover or eventually discover that your product was helping with?
So what happened was next was they had diabetes. There are people who are losing weight. There are people. The key thing that happened for everybody across the board, first thing that happens is the energy level goes up. See, the reason is it works on something called the mitochondria, and each cell in the body has a mitochondria. This is the power plant of the body. Okay. So if the power plant of the body is not working, the cells don't get the energy. So they shut down certain process. It's like this. You have a deficit budget and the government cuts programs here and there and so on. The cells do the same thing. So it works in the mitochondria and allows you, it supplies the energy to all the cells that is needed. That's why people suddenly say, I feel good. I can walk 4 kilometers today. Normally I couldn't walk more than 200 feet, things like that. That we notice right away. Hypertension, diabetes, they lose weight. The weight loss is not surprising because what happens is your body says improves the efficiency of metabolism. For example, let's say you eat 100 grams of rice. You're supposed to get 300 calories of energy. But you get only 50. So you're going to eat more rice. The rest of this thing is stored as food, as fat in your body. What this product does is, if it's supposed to produce 300, it'll produce 300. So you need less rice. You see, it's like driving a car which gives you 40 miles a gallon, and suddenly the car, you fine tune the car and repair it a little bit, it gives you 80 miles a gallon. You need less fuel. Same way you need less food. So when there's less food and there is a need for energy, the body will then metabolize the fats, and that's how you lose weight.
Okay.
But what we have found over time is it works on infectious disease. It works on COVID-19. We did in India, actually, in a hospital. Within 3 days, everybody went home. So we could have solved the world's problem in 3 days, but we are nobody in this world. So nobody listens to us. So, I go back to what Einstein said, which is, when a problem is too complex, the solution is very simple. And this is what we are about. Understanding that if you follow nature, the footsteps of nature, you mimic nature. Nature has given us all the tools for survival. We are not using it. That is the key. And once you learn that, in India, because of our philosophy, Vedic philosophy, we have learned that. My grandmother, whenever we had a cyst or something in my hand, we had a small sandalwood tree. She would take a little piece of the sandalwood tree and rub it against a hardened stone, and you get a sandalwood paste, which you will then put it, and next day it was gone. For example, you had warts in your hand. There are plants that used to grow there. When you snap the leaf, out comes a white liquid. You put it in your hand and just press it. Even today, a lot of people do that. So nature has the solutions. Just imagine you're in the African jungle or forest, and the head elephant says, "You know what, guys, take a break. I'm going to go and meet my endocrinologist." They don't know. They don't say that. They know where to go and eat what. A dog does that.
Yeah.
We have lost touch with nature. This is the key.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I had quite a bit of contact with some Native American tribes in Arizona, the Navajo and the Hopi. And they didn't have doctors. They didn't have diseases that we had. The traditional people. There were those who were, working for the United States government. They become Americanized and eating the kind of foods that we did. But the traditional people still living in the villages did not suffer from the kinds of things.
You have the example in Africa, for example, the tribes, the Maasai tribe and the headhunters, the hunters in Botswana, Namibia. If you look at the vitamin D levels, it's 125. And most Americans are lucky to even have 50. Once you cross a certain level, what happens is the body begins to store vitamin D. And once there's a disease coming in, it releases the vitamin D. But most people don't have anything to release vitamin D. During COVID, they found that none of the beggars in Bombay ever got COVID because they were sitting in the sun making a lot of vitamin D. All you have to do was raise your vitamin D level. There'll be no COVID.
Oh, my gosh. This is fascinating, Dr. Raghavan. But I have to ask you this. There have been so many natural food products and supplements on the market. In the United States, they're everywhere. All of these supplements that are supposed to do this, that, and the other thing. And, from my experience, they haven't worked with me. What is it that's so different about, we've been explaining, but I want you to say it again, so different about your product compared to these other things that claim they're going to cure everything?
You see, the difference is, I think, we have not understood disease. The way I understood disease was to mimic nature. Your body responds to molecules that are very old. Okay, it has to be part of the evolutionary chain. For example, people say, DNA was responsible for life, RNA was responsible for life, and so on. That's fine. But actually, what happened is, for life to begin, the first thing you had to form was a cocoon. The cocoon is made of lipid particles, like my product. Into that went all the amino acids and DNA, RNA, and life began. So these lipids, which is now our skin, are sensors of danger and immunity. They tell the body, listen, something is coming, get ready. And that's what this product does. Okay, it mimics nature. Second, most of the nutraceuticals or whatever in world is different. For example, you get disease because your immune system is weak. Now, so you say, I want to take a supplement. But the problem is that the body has to absorb that supplement. It cannot absorb that supplement efficiently and reverse the disease, because there are something called transporters in the body. What are transporters? Like, for example, if you eat food, like there are sodium transporters, glucose transporters. These are taxis to carry excuse me glucose or sodium or potassium to different parts of the body. But for that to work, your immune system has to be very strong. So what my product does is it fixes the immune system first, makes it very strong and receptive to what is coming in. And when that happens, all these things get absorbed. So you actually don't need to buy any any supplements with our product.
All right. What is in your product? What specifically now? What is it that's so different, so unique, and that works?
See, there is something called, in every cell, there is something inside the cell. It's like there's a Fort Knox. The Fort Knox contains what we call as the software of the body. We call this nuclear receptors. This is where instructions go from the outside, signals go from the outside, and tells these guys to produce, let's say, insulin or thyroid hormone and so on. And since I made my product water soluble and it's nano, it goes through the lipid layer of the cell into the nucleus of the cell, which is one of the most heavily guarded areas of our body, of the cell, and activates these nuclear receptors. There are 49 of them, to produce A, B, C, D, or whatever hormone is needed. And that's how it happens. It is the product by itself is not curing anything. It's instructing the body to fix itself by giving it the right signals.
Okay. I think I read in one of your publications that your product is both a topical and an internal product that you digest.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it a spray? Is it a cream for external purposes? And what is it that?
Same thing. The product that I have is water soluble. So in that we add a gel which is called xanthan gel, which is used in a lot of bread and so on, which you can apply. It's in fact edible gel. So one of the things that the products, my patent does, is to increase vitamin C in the body without giving you vitamin C. It recycles vitamin C in the body, which has not been done before. Man can't produce vitamin C. Only animals can. So this vitamin C, when you apply this product, when you apply on the skin, increases vitamin C. And that vitamin C is needed to strengthen collagen, which is the skin. That's why the skin's tighten and all this stuff goes away.
Okay. That's the topical. How do people take it internally?
See, you have, hold on, let me see. I have a here. So, it's like this, okay? There's a water. So basically what you do is you just can put it anywhere in the body.
Oh my.
You can put it in the eyes, ears. So, it improves. We have seen people's eyesight improve.
Okay.
It's very safe. It's safer than salt and sugar.
Okay, how do I get this? I'm in Russia. We can't get any mail. We can't get anything shipped here because of the sanctions and everything. But how can people get this product? Can they get it anywhere in the world?
You can buy in Europe. You can buy in UK. You can buy in US, India, Australia, Southeast Asia. And then in India, you can order from nanosutra.com in India. they'll be able to ship it. I don't know.
All right.
But we do have my product has 2 Russian patents. So
Okay. I got to ask you this question. Um, there are a lot of products that are advertised on social media that are going to do X, Y, and Z for you immediately. Um, I think people, and I'm somewhat skeptical because, I've tried some things and they just haven't worked. What would you say to people who might be skeptical about your product?
see, we have what we have done. One of the things we have done, which other products haven't done, is I do a lot of in vitro testing with different kinds of cells. For example, we recently published a paper where we take cancer cells, add our product, and show that it produces a protein called clotho. Clotho is an anti-aging and anti-tumor molecule. So the funny part about this is that it produces clotho. The product is telling the cells to produce clotho. Clotho, in turn, kills the cancer cell. So we do other kinds of lab work to substantiate work that we have seen in people.
So does your product, and it's called Nano what?
There are many names. It's called nanosoma, nano-ovages, and metadicol. These are the 3 names we use.
So to keep it simple, nanosoma, if people wanted to find it, could they go to like health stores or GNC or
It's
where do they?
Available only on the web. Yeah.
Pardon me?
It's available only on the web. It's web.
Okay, where on the web can people find it?
If you just type nanosoma, you will see a lot of sites where they sell it. UK nanosoma UK. You will find it. Nanosutra, we call it in India. So .com.
Okay.
I can send you a list of the sites where it's available.
Okay, please, if you can do that right away, and I will put it in the description to the show, which will appear a little bit later. But I'd like people to be. Did you say that your product also treats cancer?
We have done a lot of cancer patients. Okay, we are doing now in India. Okay, a lot of cancer patients, because in India, you must understand that in India it's much more open to these kind of things because we have Ayurveda, we have other tribal medicine. So we have been very successful with that, with people who use that, and also people who use it during chemotherapy. It alleviates a lot of suffering.
Wow. I have to ask you a simple question. Is your product affordable? Can just ordinary people?
Well, it depends on each country. For example, some countries don't have any taxes. For example, in India, we pay 50% taxes. So we still sell it for around $40, $45 because 50% is tax. So it'll be in that range, $40 to $50 per month. But how long, what the value of the product is what it does. It's still cheap. We produce it in Switzerland, high cost country, because of quality. We want to maintain quality. And the quality of water is important, because you got to understand that this product works at 1 picogram level. You know what is 1 picogram? 1 picogram.
Tiny.
No, it is. Let's say I have a spray, right? 1 spray. Now I dilute this 200,000 times. That spray, what went into my mouth, and I test it in cells. It's still active. It's called 1 picogram. We are activating the cells at 1 picogram. Now, why is it important? 1 picogram means 12x of homeopathy. So homeopathy is real as far as I'm concerned in what we have tested. The first time ever we have been able to show.
Okay, before we
My
end,
product works on the whole body, not For example, a lot of the nutraceuticals say good for this, good for that, good for this. I work on the entire system. Our body is the internet. We need to fix the whole internet, not just pieces of the net.
All right. What would you say to any of the people watching this who are probably hearing this for the first time in their lives? What would you say to them? Would you say, hurry up, run out and buy my product? Or what would be your message?
Well, first thing you need to do is read our patents, which is available. Second, go to researchgate.net, type the word metadicol. You will find all my patents and publications. Read it and go to the website. Look at what people are saying about it.
Okay, could you repeat that website again very slowly?
Researchgate.net.
Research.
I'm gonna text this to you in my. I just sent you the message, SMS to you. Did you get it?
Not yet. Did you send it to my email?
No. In the conversation, hold on.
Oh, wait a minute. There it is. Oh, I have it. www.research.
I mistyped it. Hold on.
I have it. ResearchGate, GATE.net, and look for metadicol.
Yeah. You will find all my patents, PDFs, downloadable. Read it if you understand it. Then go to the other site, which I've given there. I'll give you the two other sites where people have written about their experience. Hold on.
And you've also posted there www.thenanosoma.com. One word.
Yeah.
Thenanosoma.com. And for India, what is it? Nanosutra.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's another site which is so those are the sites where you can get a lot of info,
Yeah, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Raghavan. I only wish that I could get your product here in Russia. You got to find a way to get it distributed here.
If you have people traveling somewhere to India or Australia or Singapore, Malaysia, you can get it there.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that workaround. But thank you so much. This has been very, very important and informational for me, and I am sure for those who are listening, and for the many more who aren't listening live, who will watch it when the recording is ready, which will be immediately on YouTube, on Twitter.
Don't put it on YouTube. They're going to remove it. So
I will send you the link.
No, but YouTube will remove it very quickly because I've had the same problem with YouTube. A lot of my videos are removed. So.
I don't think this.
Put it on Rumble.
I also post to Rumble. Yeah, so I'll give you all the links.
Remove it. YouTube will remove it immediately. I'm telling you. I've had the same problem all the time.
Many of my followers will know that my original YouTube channel with 550 views was permanently deleted a year ago.
550,000 or 550?
No, 550 of my films, videos, and podcasts were permanently deleted.
No, I've had this problem with YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. They do it all the time. But that's why science, unless it's free and open, you're not going to get progress.
Yeah.
I mean, as Buddha said, there are three things you cannot hide in this world: the sun, the moon, and the truth. The truth is coming out. You cannot hide it.
Dr. Raghavan, thank you so much.
Okay. Nice talking to you.